Greetings and welcome to Georgian Crossroads. This is Byrne Power. I am your host, and this is the last in a series of 4 videos on my little trip to Kajority, which is a little village. It's more than a village. It's a small town, but it doesn't have many amenities there. A couple of little stores, one drugstore, a couple of other things, not much. But it is actually a pretty important place. But I'm leaving there today. And in fact, I won't be in the village very long in this video, because what I decided to do is, after taking the bus up here, I've decided to walk all the way back. And the trip took me about 5.5 hours. And it was a great way to get exercise. I woke up at 6:30 in the morning to start. Well, actually, I was on the road by 6:30. I woke up at 6. So let's come with me and I will show you where we're going today as we walk through the quiet streets of Kajority in the morning to get to the trailhead. Walking through the quiet streets of Kajority, going towards the Uzo Monastery, I am actually following the advice, though in reverse, from Peter Naismith's book, Walking in the Caucasus, Georgia. And I recommend this book for suggestions of many different walking trails in the country. Now, there was one thing he mentioned on the way up to the Uzo Monastery that kind of had me a little worried. He said, right before you get to the monastery, there's a little road that kind of juts off to the side. And he says, you don't want to take that road coming down. Now, I was going up, not coming down, but he said, it's because he said there were bored, angry dogs there. The only thing I ever worry about here in Georgia are bored, angry dogs. And it's not that I'm afraid of dogs. It's just that I know there are some bored, angry dogs, and you just don't want to meet them. So as I'm walking through this area, I am reminded of a strange little puppet movie that was called Dreams of the Kojori Forest, which featured strange, crows, penguins? Well, let's call them crows. And at one point, Louis Armstrong shows up in this thing. You can look this up on YouTube and find it. But now I was in the Kojori Forest. And what kind of dreams would I have? And it was actually quite a stunning hardwood forest where I was walking right now. And eventually there would be even more larger trees. I actually loved this part of the trail. It's not a trail, it's kind of a road, obviously. But there would be pine trees further up. But this section here was lovely. This was a spot where I guess they built it so you could stop and rest. There was probably a drinking fountain or an artesian well coming through a pipe. But I didn't stop. It was early in the morning, and I was on my way up to the top of the mountain. And so I passed the dogs, but I'll mention more of them in a moment. And they actually put cement on the road going up, which was a good thing, because otherwise it would probably be impossible to get a car up there given the steepness of it. Here's a map showing exactly how far I will be going. Let me show you how I walked, and this will give you an idea. This is what Google had for me walking along the way. Now, it was basically correct. There were some issues. There was a cutoff that was a bit tricky at a little power station, and you have to kind of stay right in front of the power station and not follow the obvious road there. But it takes you eventually to Turtle Lake. And don't believe Google at above Turtle Lake. You can keep walking around it. But I finally got up there, and there was a shrine, wonderful St. George shrine. Well, I am at the top of the Udzo Monastery mountain, and it's about 7:45 in the morning, and I passed the bored angry dogs without incident, because they were more interested in each other than me. But now the long part starts, all downhill to Vake Park and my home. So, a beautiful morning. It's going to be quite sunny. I had shade all the way up. I hope I get a lot more on the way down. We'll see. The great thing about this was it was just like gently up and down, almost all down on the way. And then I kept walking from there and came to a kind of a little meadow, sunburnt, looking over what would have been really great views had it been a different sort of day. The clouds and evaporation of moisture was making it kind of hazy. Not that that was a distraction at all. It was a beautiful, beautiful time up there. But this wasn't right at the top. It was down a little bit further as I traveled. Tbilisi is way down there in the haze. The sun is burning off all the clouds from the last few days. Now this is worth stopping for. And one thing I would say as a word of caution, this was good. If you have problems with your knees, I wouldn't take this trail down, because some of it does get not super steep. It's not climbing at all, but it does descend. And the worst part for certain people would be the places, and they weren't very long compared with some other trails I've been on, where what's under your feet is nothing but gravel, small stones, things like that. I did end up tripping once, and I got worried because my knee bent in an odd shape, but fortunately nothing actually happened. But that is something to watch for. Meanwhile, it was just glorious weather going down, mostly on the cool side. Occasionally I'd come into the open, but up this far, this is still, 3,500 feet or more. Still quite cool for a summer day, although it was supposed to be 34 degrees, 94 degrees once I got to Tbilisi. But fortunately, there was still kind of a hazy cloud cover that was burning off slowly. And roads like this were wonderful. There was one place I came to, quite in the middle of the road, that looked like it was prohibited to walk through, but it was the only way through. It wasn't that long. There were some buildings that looked a bit like bunkers there, and I just walked through. It's Georgia. No one was there. No one cared. But if you do come to such a thing, think about it. This was the Lost Hut. It was a place you could stop. You could camp overnight. You could bring a camper there before taking off. And this is on the way down, so I'm going to Turtle Lake, not Europe Square. And that's sick. That is... okay, let's say this correctly. That's Tikneti down there, which is actually above the end of Vake. And I'm looking down at Vake there, but I'll get a better view of it soon. But all the way down, you're getting these wonderful views. Well, I still have at least an hour to go on my walk down the hill. It'll probably end up being 3.5 to 4 hours. I'm going to take the tram across Vake Park down from Turtle Lake as a shortcut. I mean, I've done the walk down there several times, so I'm not missing anything. But this is a fantastic trip to take. Some spectacular views. Fortunately, the sun has gone behind clouds, which makes it more bearable. Otherwise, there'd be some stretches here. I think in the middle of the summer, this would be pretty hot. I knew it would be a cooler day, and the clouds have come back, and that's a very good thing. And there have been a couple of sections I wouldn't recommend for people who have problems walking. Sections with a lot of gravel and scree on the road, just kind of washed out, leaving the gravel there. But they aren't very long, and taking a stick would be a very good thing, finding a stick along the way. Not at the beginning. This section you certainly don't need a stick for, but certainly once it starts going uphill past this little power station, which is like the last human thing you see for at least an hour or more, until you get up to the Udzo monastery. But coming down, I don't think I'd like to walk up. But coming down, going up to Kajority, amazing trip. And I passed what Peter Naismith and his guide walking the Caucasus calls angry bored dogs. They were literally 4 of them at this turnoff to this village, which I was sure not to take. But nevertheless, they were right on guarding the entrance. But fortunately, they were more interested in each other, and I think it was mating season, so I dodged that bullet. Okay. Now, we have a choice to make. This way or this way. Which way should I go? I think it's this way, because I've been going the opposite way for a while, and this looks like a better trail. So, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is it. Okay, and then there's a place that says Panoramic View. Doesn't look like it's that far up. I think I'm going to go look at that, as opposed to go to Europe Square. And this is walking out to the panoramic point, looking straight down over one of the edges. This is like a spit of land that goes over. You're walking at this point towards Tikneti, which is the back end of Vake, hovering above it, the old Soviet place for the rich elites, actually, because they like to be slightly apart. But Vake was like that as well. This is the panoramic view. So I'm looking across at the mountains I've just come down, across Tsikneti. And you can see there's higher mountains, always higher mountains on these lesser Caucasus. You just think you're at the top, and then there's another bump of a old volcanic mountain further beyond. And now I'm just passing Bagebi, and now I'm looking down at Vake, and you see these taller buildings. And there's the black and white of the Axis towers, and right below that is where I live. So that is where I am going towards. And then a closer look at Vake. And let's continue. And my old favorite power lines. I just love the black geometric shapes crisscrossing the sky. Well, this is near the end of the trip. What a fantastic walk. I will do this again sometime when the weather is cooler. And I'm up here on the overlook on the way to the Swan Tower, which I've never been up to. I've seen it from below, but that'll be nice to get near it. And then take the tram down the mountain to Vake Park, and I'm home. What a great way to walk. And so that's the Swan Tower that was part of the ethnic heritage center there, the ethnographic buildings. And the double black and white tower, I am right below that in Vake. And here we are. There's Turtle Lake. Now the map will tell you to come around on the left here down past the Swan Tower. I've always found it better to just keep going straight. You come to another lookout point and then walk straight from there and come around that way. That seems to be the way the trail is actually going. Rather than do the last 45 minutes of walking, I was very tired by this point. This was well over 5 hours of walking. And I was, it was now officially about 34 degrees, and you could feel as soon as you got over Turtle Lake, the weather changed noticeably and got warmer. So I hopped on the aerial tramway and went down what they call the ropeway here, and went down from Turtle Lake down to within 2 blocks of my home in Vake on Chavchavadze Avenue. And this is only half of the ride. I forgot to turn my camera on for the other part, but that's okay. You can also take this going up, which will save you a lot of work. Yeah, so just take a taxi or a bus to the Axis Towers and the Agro Hub, Carrefour, right up there on Chavchavadze, right at the park, or you can just go to Vake Park. And I'm coming down to my neighborhood. It's kind of nice descending. I saved myself 45-minute walk in the hot weather. I mean, I could have easily done it. I've done it before. So there's the Axis Towers, and where I live is not far from that. Meanwhile, there's other rather boring modern buildings here. Although I'm kind of attached to the Whistle building that we're passing here as some sort of early independence kind of construction. And there we are, landing. And so finally, I am back in Vake. And I feel like I just took a walk back down the hill. It wasn't easy. It did get quite warm. Was about 34 degrees, about 94 degrees. Once I came down from Turtle Lake, quite warm. But having taken the little aerial tram down, it was simple. I just felt like, okay, I'm back. I just walked home. And you could do that too. It's a very easy trip to do. It's easy to find a place on Airbnb. They don't get any money from me, but that's one way to find a nice, inexpensive place to spend a day or two there. But the walk back was wonderful. And of course, you just watched everything, so you know how wonderful it was. And I would suggest doing it perhaps not in the middle of summer, but it was nice to get away from the heat by being up there. And so I highly recommend it. But I think it would be even better in the spring or the autumn. So think about doing that. Meanwhile, hey, subscribe to the channel. Have you done that yet? Do it now. You're still here, subscribe. Hit like, that helps the algorithm find me. There are all sorts of crazy Georgian videos, a lot less interesting than mine, that have millions of views, thousands and thousands and thousands of views. Why don't mine get more views? It's because these algorithmic things don't know about me. And the reason they don't know about me is you need to press like and subscribe, etc. And share it with your friends if you think it's an interesting video, or if the channel's interesting. Share the channel with your friends. And if you want to help me, you can subscribe and you can contribute. And there's a PayPal link below. And you might be seeing a way for me to, shall we say, inspire you to contribute at the end of this video. So stick around. Meanwhile, from Tbilisi, Georgia, I just want to say Droebit, which basically means I'll see you again soon, but what it seriously means is temporarily. We'll meet again soon.